I'm going to be taking your questions for the next hour or so on topics such as writing your CV for the first time, interviewing, how to stand out in an interview, how to get your CV to stand out with recruiters, workplace issues. I've done recently taken several questions regarding workplace related issues. Also, too, again, UCAS will be closing its first round of applications in just under 2 weeks. So if you are in the process of looking at different university programs or wanting some information, it is a good time to ask because I can get you the answers. This is a question and answer live stream where I'll take your questions. I will try to answer them, but not all questions can be answered in these types of situations, especially if it's one that requires a bit of thought and review. So if you have something a bit more involved, best thing to do is look at my profile and send me a message and we can talk a bit further. So if you do have a question, always feel free to put it down. So if you've been sending off CVs and no reply, let me know because we can take a look at it and tell you what, we may be able to get yourself a solution to that issue. This is what I'm here for. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down. I take it on questions on a first come, first served basis. So if you do have questions about why is your CV not getting any responses, why are you having to write CVs? Do you need to write a CV for every different type for each job you apply for? How do you write a cover letter? Those types of questions. How do you edit a CV to get it down to 2 pages? What do you need to put on a CV? It is all these questions I do take, so no problem if you have it. Again, if you have interview questions like how to answer, tell me something about yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or if you do get questions like, why did you apply to this role? Anything, it is, feel free to ask those questions. Again, workplace issues. Again, what do you have a manager that's micromanaging you? Do you feel that your line manager is, very incompetent? How do you raise those types of issues? Again, feel free to ask. I've had a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks about starting a small business in the UK. How to start, where do you get support? Is there any financial support available for you? It is, you can always, Anthony, it is a little bit difficult. If you're talking about how to earn money at 16, it's getting a job. Jobs are limited for 16-year-olds in hours worked, roles that you can undertake. And also, too, there is limitations that are placed by the insurance providers on the organization. Likewise, if you're looking to, start a business, there's a lot of things you can start to look at. If you are looking to start a small business, there is support there for you. What can you do? It's really up to you. It's up to you. What do you want to do in the way of starting your own business? But again, until you hit 18, it can be very limiting for you, and it is just to ensure that you do get your education that you do enter the workforce with skills. So I would say for you, I would focus on, getting in education first, because money will come, will naturally follow with the more that you invest into education. The more you will get, and the more it will pay off for you. And it is probably a lot better to stay in school, go on to university, go on to college, get your GCSEs, get your A levels, and graduate, and open up a lot more opportunities for you. So if you are just joining and you do like the feed, please please share, and please follow. Because if you do follow, it does keep you up to date with the content. It also, hey, Mary, thank you for the follow. Thank you so much. It does keep you up to date with the content. It also keeps you up to date with my live streams. It is, it does keep you up to date also too. If you do feel inclined, but again, you don't have to, please send guests. It does help me to know what people like, what's resonating. It helps me to kind of steer the conversation today, and also too helps me to plan for my future content. So if you do have a question, thank you so much. So yeah, so if you are, and that's one of the things I do get. I do get a mix of young people following kind of university A-level GCSEs, and also more mid-career who have been. Well, so I'm not sure what you're saying, Anthony. Yeah, so how do you monetize? So if you're talking about monetizing on TikTok, you do need to get a bit of, you do need followers, and I think the number is to go live. I think in the UK it's 500. In other countries it's up to 1,000. You can go live with 500 on TikTok. Just money. Okay, just getting money. It is, like I said, very difficult to do it at 16, especially in the UK, because there is a lot of restrictions on 16-year-olds in the way of pay, in the way of what they can do, the hours they can work, when they can work. There is a lot of restrictions on that. And so it is very difficult. Plus, too, because of your age, it is harder to serve alcohol. There's certain jobs that you just can't do, either because of legalities or insurance regulations. Insurance companies won't cover them. So it is a very difficult, but temporary issue. Once you hit 18, things do change. It is at the time, at 16, if you're looking to kind of monetize, the best ways probably would be kind of like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, using social media to do it. Also, too, would be to look at, again, if you have a small business idea, getting doing something online and trying to make some money off of that. It's probably the better way to go. Because if you do, like I say, look for jobs, you are very kind of limited to where you wind up is some hospitality, fast food type of thing. Otherwise, it is kind of very limited for you, because of all the legalities for somebody under the age of 18. So if you do have something more specific, I can give you some ideas, but to really monetize, I think it's, either start your own small business, use social media as a way to monetize, or otherwise, you can try to navigate the employment market. But right now in the UK, it is really tough, and a lot of the jobs that have basically kind of evaporated have been the entry levels for like your age group, for like 16-18-year-olds, the really entry level jobs. If I would say to you, if I would give you one piece of advice for someone your age, would be to stay in school, because I would say to you, it would be what I would say is stay in school, because education will pay off dividends, and you will make a lot more money in education. If you, I think, try to go for the money isn't everything. You will do about I would say, hey Reese, good to see you. How's it going? In the future, I would say, as you get older, things change, and your perspectives change. And it's not always easy. Going good for myself and you. And it's not always easy to see the future. So always, be prepared. Don't rush things. Sit back and enjoy life. And don't get, like I would say to people, don't get money focused, because money is not the end all. Hey, Pearl, good to see you. If you really are looking for kind of the money area, and I would always say anything STEM is the best in the way of healthcare, engineering, economics, physics. Anything STEM is always good, because that's where you're going to wind up making the most money. I would say to you, if you're not looking kind of STEM, like accounting, economics, engineering, healthcare, biology, chemistry, physics kind of fields, I would say, again, I would start to say to you, start looking at kind of the IT end of things. IT kind of sits into it, but it's not always seen as kind of the STEM. But I would say kind of the IT field. IT is always good. I'm not really into the crypto stuff and Bitcoins, because they're just way too risky and just way too unpredictable. A lot of people hype it up, but I don't get into it, because it's, I think, way too too unpredictable, and it's not always the best field. Hey, how's it going, Reese? How's it been going since you last? I don't do a lot with stocks. Just from my own personal opinion, anything that's consumer defensive is always good. That's amazing. Oh, that's really good, Reese. That is really good. So it is, I would say, consumer defensives are always, in my opinion, good. It's always good. Consumer defensives. Oh, that's good. So you got a plan. So what is the business? Is it the data analytics? And also, too, again, defense would be really good, but there's very limited defense. In my opinion, defense is a good stock, good area, good sector. And also, too, I think gold, in my opinion, is good. It's a good one to have. So, yes, so waiting for approval. Ah, without the bad feel, that's good. That's really good. So you got a plan and things are going forward. That's good. That's the best way to always owning your business. It's always the best because it ensures that it gets ran the way you want to and you're in control and not somebody else is in control. Yes, it is. TikTok is really kind of funny about they have a lot of weird rules. Um, I'm trying to get a service on, but I haven't thought if I can actually do it in the TikTok shop because it's I think more geared to products than services. Okay. So what type of what did you do presenting? Uh, oh, that's heavily regulated on TikTok. Supplements is really heavily weighted regulated on TikTok. It's very hard to do, and there's a lot of rules and a lot of people. Yes. Oh, definitely. Definitely on that one. So if you're just not 100% sure what you're asking, Fatima. Do you mean you've been offered something different than what you may have started out at university? Um, okay, I think it happens to all of us. I mean, especially, hey, Harry, thank you for the live. Thank you for the like. Not live like. Um, so yeah, so it does happen, Fatima. You may go to university for a while and then go to university, get into your career, life happens, and what you were really passionate about when you're young, all of a sudden, once you've hit, hey, good, keep me updated, Reese. But then when you hit, a couple years in, you just decide, you find out, hey, it is definitely exciting, Reese. You just hit that. Hey, thanks. Good night. You have a good night and look forward to seeing you again in another update. Um, you hit that point and all of a sudden you realize like, hey, it's happened to me too. Um, it's not what you wanted. For me, for example, my own story, I used to do IT a lot. But then as it progressed in IT, I just found two things. One, I kind of like people contact. IT don't get a lot of people contact. And you can go for days really not seeing or talking to people because you're working on things and trying to resolve problems and issues for people. So you do maybe get emails from people. You may say hi, water cooler type of thing. But at the end of the day, it's not the same as like I do with contract management where you do have more contact. And so I kind of hit that plus two as I went through and progressed in IT. The one thing I found that I really needed to do was kind of start to learn either to code, to do networks or databases. And I didn't mind so much databases, but I wasn't really passionate about it. And so I just kind of just hit that mark and just said, hey, this is no longer for me because I just can't see myself progressing anything further because I just don't want to do network or databases. I don't see myself as such. So I had to make a decision, but I did have a degree in law, and I did a lot of the work I did in IT was kind of in the contracts and kind of not the primary, but kind of like a secondary task that I kind of picked up as part of the roles that I did. So I've had a bit of contract experience, and then an opportunity came up for me to be a contract manager and kind of been able to progress into that from my own experiences, from those experiences. So I have been able to move into kind of like contracting, kind of, it's not where I really started off. And really where I haven't really planned myself, but that's where I wound up going. And so you really, I think, Fatima, what you really just need to do is start talking and start thinking about, start thinking about, if it's not, for you, you find out, hey, this is not for me. I just don't care for this anymore. I'm not as passionate. Oh, well, thank you, J4K, for the perfume. That's so nice. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you. What you need to start doing is, start to take a look at the skills that you have. What I always will say is the first point is start to think about skills, because really job titles are not relevant, because job titles is just kind of like a way to describe what you do. It's kind of to categorize. It's a really kind of a way to categorize things. And in all honesty, Fatima, they're not really good. It's a very kind of like broad term, and for me, like for my example, I'll use my example, contract management. There are a whole spectrum of contract managers. And so if I just say I'm a research contracts manager specializing in medical and social science research, it doesn't really say a lot, because it doesn't say anything about skills. And the current trend right now is when you're applying for jobs, from what I'm finding out, it's really skills based. So you really need to define the skills. So that's why you should start, when you're thinking about a career change, is start thinking about the skills, not the title. And then start to look at the jobs that you would like to have, and start to kind of work out where is that point you can, where can you hop in on, because you're going to probably, if you're going to do a career change, you're going to have to do either a step down, or if you have the skills, you may be able to kind of do a kind of like a sidestep. And so you may just be able to do that. What I would say is start to take a look at, hey, no problem. Look at job descriptions that you'd like to move into. And start to look at the skills that they require, and start to look at the skills that you have, and start to work out, is there any skills that you're really kind of deficient in that you need to develop. And so, hey, Luciana, good to see you. And start to think about what are they need to develop, and how can you get these skills. So can you get skills in, just by maybe doing an online course? Can you get these skills by maybe getting job experience? And just good night. Have a good night, Luciana, and hope to see you back soon. Can you do these skills? Can you develop these skills? Just by getting, some job experience, or maybe doing like an expression of interest when somebody may be, hey, doing good. So again, think about those and how do you get those skills? Do an assessment. What the skills you have, what do you need, and then how do you get that skill? And then start to look at it. Once you start to think that you feel like, I'm ready to make that career change because I have the skills that I need. I know what I'm looking for in a way of a job. What I would start to say to you is this: start to look at doing what's called a functional CV. Functional emphasizes skills over your chronological, because if you do a career change and you focus on job titles, the type of job you were at, how long you were, what you did with each one, in the chronological, they're going to start to see a bit of a gap. It is a bit of a gap, and it starts to be a bit of a gap, and they'll start to see it. And so what happens then is then you start to get rejected. So if you do a functional CV, Fatima, what it does do for you, then it highlights the skills that you have. It calls their attention to your skills. It kind of detracts away from your different job titles. It doesn't mean you won't get asked about why are you doing a career change, why don't you have any experience in this area? How, it means that it will, well, I'm glad to hear that, Fatima. So again, then you just take it, do a bit of a career change, because functional CVs are really, kind of set up for individuals doing career changes. And so again, you can put your skills on it, align your skills that you have to the job description, and you should be pretty much set. It shouldn't be that hard, but again, like I said, there may be a few gaps where you are a bit struggling, where you may need to fill those. So, it's a good way. So basically, to summarize, do an assessment of your skills, audit your skills, look at the identify the type of role that you want to move into, look at the skills that type of skill requires, and then start to figure out where the gaps lie, and then what do you need to do to fill those gaps. And then once you got those gaps filled, or you start to think I could apply maybe by taking a bit of a step down, maybe getting my foot in the door that way, develop a functional CV that aligns with the jobs that you're applying, and you should be good to go. Just be prepared to answer questions about why are you changing careers or why you're making this change, and just have a really good narrative to come up with, and you should be set to go. I agree. It isn't that hard, but it does, I think, in my opinion, the UK makes career change a bit harder, because it's not as accessible as it would be in other countries. I think it is a very kind of punitive, in a way, process. Okay. The stats, yeah, it's not that hard, especially if you've done a lot of stats as part of your psychology degree, because I know with psychology degrees there is a bit of research psychology that you do get, and that's where you get the statistics. And so to make a transition, and if you do a bit of additional statistics along the way, it's not that hard to move from psychology to statistics, especially if you do have some experience with statistics, either on an academic basis beyond taking the stats course, or if you've done some research and you use stats, I think it should be a relatively easy jump. I think where you may struggle a little bit with it is depending on the field and what you've done. I think if you kind of potentially, if you go, let's say, insurance, and you have, let's say, multiple regression in your statistic background, it should be relatively easy for working in insurance, especially like life insurance, because life insurance, it uses in its actuarial tables a lot of multiple regression analysis. So again, I think it would be relatively easy, especially if you know where you're targeting and where your statistical skills do come in play. There's also, because I do work a bit in research, I know that there is a lot of times people who have strong statistical skills do get consultant roles to come in to help. If you do have specialized knowledge in statistics, you can come in as a consultant as part of a research project to do the stats on a research project and help out that way is another option. So there is a lot of options for you. So I think it's one that you should be able to transition relatively smooth, just depending on what your statistical background is and whatever experience you may have in it. Oh, good. Good. Yeah, there is. I don't think it should be a real difficult. It may mean that, potentially, from, what it may just mean is you may just have to pick up a bit more, maybe an additional course or two on statistics, research statistics or something like that, just to make yourself a bit more marketable or something. But I don't think it should be a massive change, especially, like I said, if you do have the experience. So yeah. So if you are just joining and you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. And if you do feel so inclined, please send gifts, because it does help me to know what resonates with people, what is resonating, what people like, and it helps me to kind of shift the conversation, direct the conversation today, along with directing the conversation and also to planning my future content. And also, if you are looking, today we've kind of gone through a bit, a bit of, a bit of a, how should I say, quite a big California sun. How are you doing? Hey, thank you for the follow. So we do have like I say, a very much a kind of a breadth. We've talked a bit about making, a bit of money for a 16-year-old, how to kind of, how do you find a job at 16? How do you, earn money? UK here. And how to make money at 16. Also to, hey, thanks for the like, Big California Sun. Also to spend a bit of time talking about giving some advice and tips. And also spend a little bit of time talking about making a career change and also the talking about job titles, and that, job titles are not always, how should I say, are not always as indicative as they mean, and they don't really say what you've done. Hey, no problem. No problem, Fatima. That's what I am here for, and that's what the purpose of this live stream is about. Good night, and good luck. So keep me updated how things do go for you, Fatima. So yeah, so if you do, like I say, have a couple of questions, that's great. Thank you so much. Hey, George. It is, hey, Ethel. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down below, and pick up, because I will take questions, anything kind of career related. So anything CVs, CV writing, CV editing, how to edit a CV, what do you put on a CV, what, how do you align your CV with the job description, talking about interviews, how do you stand out in an interview? What do you need to do? How do you prepare for an interview? How to answer different interview types of questions. Answering different types of interview questions. What is it that you need to do, to prepare for an interview, for example? Also, too, talking about negotiating. Yes. All right. Usually business administration degree. Is it a bachelor's degree? Is it a certificate? What do you have, Big California? So again, so if you have questions like that, UCAS is coming up. Okay, what's an ND? Is that national? What is an ND? That's what I thought. That is probably I don't it is probably not, because business administration is, if you're looking for a job in UK, I will tell you right now, it is very high unemployment right now. We're at 5.1%. They have tightened requirements on immigration, and a national, and also increased. Well, I won't say it's gone up. The income threshold, and with which would be kind of like to the higher, which would be national employment, probably sits close to the UK 2-year degree of higher national diploma with business administration. That is very broad, and it wouldn't get you, most likely wouldn't get you a job that paid enough to meet the work visa requirements, unless you have a lot of experience at middle or senior management. Unless you have probably middle management experience, where an organization would hire you and pay you, I think it's about 37,000, which would be about right around 37K in the UK. And that would be, I think, NHS pay banding, that would be, I think, right around a band 6. So you would have to kind of use that, if you use that as your gauge of the type of experience you would need. That would be probably where you need to kind of come in at right around that. And I think, I would say, you can always try to apply, but I don't, I think it would take a bit, and a bit more experience, to get an application to be successful and to be able to get a work visa on that. Hey, Kwame, good to see you. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down. Like I said, it's been quite a productive day. Really a lot of questions, and really like the engagement today. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down. If you have sent out CVs and not getting replies, put it into the comments. So if you have sent out CVs and not getting replies, put it into the comments. Let's see what we can do for you. If you are, so let's see what we can do, for you to get it, because this is what I do with these live streams, is try to find solutions for people who may be struggling a bit with CVs or interviews, or upcoming interviews, or applying for universities. So if you are a recent university graduate and struggling to get your first, put into the comments. So if you are, recent, you need to be able, if you're looking to locate to the UK, you need to basically be able to get a visa. Without a visa, you won't be able to enter unless you're a UK citizen. If you don't have a UK passport, then you will need to get a visa. And a visa is the only way to do it. And so you would have to go through, basically have your education verified. You would have to have a background check. And and you would need to find someone to sponsor you for work, that in a job that paid the threshold, which is, I think, right now it's about 37,000, which would be very much in a business administration background. It would be middle to senior management in the UK. And even at 37, especially in London, it's not enough to really live off of, because London is very expensive. And 37 would be probably, especially when you factor in traveling back and forth to work, it would be difficult, because most of your pay would go to housing. After taxes were taken out, it would mostly go to housing. So I would say, so if you are just joining and you do like the feed, I always will say, please like, please share, and please follow, because as you do follow, it does keep you up to date on my live streams and content. Plus, too, if you do feel inclined, but you don't feel as though you have to, hey, no problem, California sun. And if you do feel inclined, please send gifts, because it really does help me to know what people like. And also, too, if you are just joining and you do want a little bit of benefit from the live streams, there are two ways. The little 1-point heart means makes you a fan, and you do get shout outs when you do come in. And also, I do prioritize your questions. If you want a bit more, take a look at my profile, and right below my profile there is subscription. There's 3 subscription services: basic, standard, and deluxe. At the basic, it is about access. You get access to the Discord community, access to videos that are not a part of those available to the general public and followers, so you do get the exclusive videos. You just have to look. I don't know anything about the Nigerian job market. And it is, I think, if you're looking to work remotely from Nigeria, you do need to, there is very few that will entertain the idea of remote working from Nigeria, because I do believe that there is a lot of tax consideration. And most UK businesses probably would not, that would mean they may have to pay into Nigerian taxes, be subject to Nigerian law, and many businesses may not may not want to do that. And so I think it would be, you can try to apply, see if they would do remote. But again, I do think that it would be, I think, a struggle because of the tax rules. I do know, if you are working, it is, I think there is certain rules that do apply from tax way, especially if you go beyond like 90 days and stuff. So I think it is something worth, exploring, but I think you still need to get some advice because of the tax situation. It may mean you do get taxed twice on the UK and also Nigerian, because you're being paid from a UK business. And again, it may mean, certain issues for UK business. So I think it'd be worth getting some advice on that from a tax standpoint. So if you are just joining and you do like the feed, please like, please share, please follow. And if you have any questions, please put it down below, and I will pick it up and answer it, because today is no problem. Today is, like I said, it's all about you, and this is really about you, having you, if you have questions, being able to ask it. And because, you ask, probably somebody else has that same type of question. And so by doing and asking, you are actually helping others, because it gives them a bit of a, how should I say, insight. And it does show that, it's okay to ask questions. It also helps them because they get their question answered too. So it is a very good way to help yourself, to help others, is by asking questions. So if you do have a question, please feel free to put it down below, and I will pick it up from you. And so more than happy to, to take a question. If you have a question, I will take it. And again, questions can be anything. CVs, especially like CV editing, how do you edit a CV? How long should a CV be? What should you put on a CV? What should your sections be called on a CV? What should you include on the CV? Should you have a profile statement? Many other types of questions. And again, with interviews, I take anything pretty much. How do you stand out on an interview? How do you prepare for an interview? What do you need to consider? What is the etiquette for an interview online using Teams or Zoom? What is a one-sided interview? How do you prepare for a one-sided interview? How do you prepare for an assessment center or prepare a presentation for an interview? And again, if you do have questions about, UCAS personal statements, I do take those. I also talk about, UCAS personal statements, talk about university, finding jobs after graduation, internships, do internships really matter? How did they help you? A lot of those types of questions. More than happy to take questions on those. And like, workplace issues, bullying. I do get the occasional from time to time questions on bullying. How to, resolve pay dispute, how to negotiate pay once you do get an offer. How do you, get more money off of your job? How do you get, more money? There's a whole slew of potential there for you. So if you do have a question, again, feel free to ask, and I will pick those up from you and give you the answer. And hopefully those answers, will help you get a job and help you and convert those worries and concerns into a bit of hope and give you the courage, the confidence. So when you go apply or interview, you have the confidence, the knowledge, the inside knowledge of what made to be expecting, what you should be expecting, and how to answer those questions. So if you do have a question, please put it down below. More than happy to pick up questions. Yesterday spent a little bit of time discussing apprenticeships and using CV templates and talking about the UK, job market for remote workers. What is remote working like? Is it better to be in the office or remote working? And I shared with those kind of two experiences. One experience, it was about, talking about what is it like to remote work? Is it, office versus, hybrid, or office versus, 100% remote? Which one is better? And I've talked about, what my own experience is working umbrella, where I do work primarily remote, and what is it like to remote work? And so what I did say in that was, I do struggle with the push back to offices because I don't see the necessity per se to always be in the office, because people I do know who work remotely do find remote working a bit less stressful. You don't have the office politics. You have that kind of arm's length away from it. You're away from the politics. But again, you have the politics. You are a bit more productive. But again, you're also a bit isolated. And so when you do work remote, the one thing I do find with it is you do start to get a feeling a bit of isolation. And sometimes it takes a while to get things resolved because you're not in the office where you can have that quick meeting to ask questions, get the answers, and get the help that you need to kind of get those tasks completed. And so I think there is a little bit of benefit being in, but I did explain, did draw on some experiences. Like one was yesterday, talked a bit about my last role where I worked in the not-for-profit area, and that organization had a rule policy that people had to be in the office one day a week. And so I would go in, a lot of times there would be nobody in, and then I would get people say, oh, they want to be in when I'm in so we can meet and, and have all these discussions, yada, 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 but never showed up. And like with my team was spread throughout the UK. And we only had in the year that I was there, because I was on a fixed term contract, just one personal meeting, and that was it. And that was, I think, really, and so for me, I kind of saw that one was a tick boxing exercise just to say you're in the office. The other was the other role that I had where I did do, like, it was a fixed term contract. I had to be in the office one day a month. And for me, I liked that one better because it was really productive for me to be in. I was really busy, and it kept me going, and was able to do the job, felt connected, and I really enjoyed it. So for me, I do see the value in working, coming into the office, but I don't always think it is as necessary as a lot of people push it. So for me, I'd like to always say, for me, I think there needs to be a bit more of a balance, because if you can do the job from home, then, why not? Because it's less expensive, less need for desk space, less electricity, less expenses, and it works well for everyone. So yeah. So just to remind you, kind of coming down to the last 15 minutes or so, unless it gets extended with a few more gifts and the time increases. But to remind you, I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, taking the same types of questions. And I think tomorrow I will spend a bit of time kind of talking a bit about, because I think there is from what I can pick up over my last couple lives, is finding job when under 18. So if you're under 18 looking for a job, I will do a little bit, kind of have a little bit of a chat about that. But again, it's always kind of driven by your questions. But I will do a little bit of a ditty on that, talking about that and how to kind of like CV, type of CV to use, CV, and what you can do, because there are a lot of limitations. So can have a bit of a chat, and like pay concern for that. So yeah, so if you do have a question, about tomorrow, again, always feel free to, direct message me. Happy to pick up a question or two on that if there's something you want to see. message me. So if you want something to be discussed, message me on TikTok. And also too, there's contact information in my profile. So if you do want if there's something you want to see, feel free to message me. And so again, if there is anything you do have, if there is a question you do have, feel free to put it down, as I will pick it up. It's still easily, we got still just under 13 minutes. Easily can pick up a question or two, and if I do run over, that's fine. It's a weekend. More than happy to run over. I don't need to do a hard stop. So if you do have a question that runs over, feel free to discuss, to ask. So again, really, if you do have a question, feel free. I will pick it up. Again, I will take questions on anything like CV, job interviews, negotiating pay, how to get a promotion, workplace issues, UCAS, starting your own business, anything you can think of. Feel free to put it down. So if you have a question or two, more than happy to do it. It's kind of gone a little quiet. Usually I'm getting more questions. So if you do, so how do you answer, tell me something. So how do you answer that question? Tell me something about yourself. How do you answer that question when you're asked that in an interview? So how do you, answer that question? And how do you prepare for an interview, how do you prepare for a job interview? Be interested to know. How do you, prepare for a job interview? So if you have a way that you prepare, I'd love to hear it. If you have questions on how to prepare, feel free to ask those too. So yeah, so if you do have a question, so how do you prepare for a, so how do you prepare? What do you do? So what do you do? How do you prepare for a job interview? What's part of your kind of ritual? What do you do to prepare? Be interested to hear. If you do have questions about preparing for an interview, again, feel free to put it down below. And also too, do you send out the same CV for every job. So are you one that likes to send out the same CV for every job, or do you tailor it for each specific job? And I would love to hear that too. What do you do? Because it's always interesting to know what people do. How did they send it out? So do you send out the same CV for every? So do you send out the same CV for every? For every job. And do you prefer online virtual interviews or in-person interviews? So do you prefer online interviews or in-person interviews, and why do you prefer them? Do you like to be quite interested in hearing your reasoning? And why do you like them? So if you have a question, what is your preference? What is your preference? Do you like the same? Do you prefer in-person or virtual interviews, and why? Be interesting to hear your comments, to kind of get a bit of insight from you. So if you're just joining and you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. Because when you do follow, you do get updates of my live stream and content. And also, too, if you do feel inclined, please send gifts, as it really does help me. But again, don't feel those you have to, because it really does help me to know what people like and helps me to plan content. So if you do have any questions, feel free. And just to let you know, we're kind of winding down to the last 5 minutes. Again, I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. It is, tomorrow, 4 a.m., taking your questions on CVs, job interviews, negotiating pay, advancement, workplace-related issues, UCAS, starting your own business, personal statements, university, and more. So remember to set a reminder, bookmark it, and also find it there. And if you do, like I say, have a question, feel free to put it down, because I will pick it up. And if I do run, like I say, a few minutes over, I'm not going, timer expires, and you do ask a question, don't worry, I will still pick it up and complete it, because I don't need to do a hard stop. So if you are looking for a bit of some advice, I would always, or tips, always say, get in contact with me. Direct message me. Profile has contact details. And you can easily get in contact with me with any questions. I will, like I say, be back tomorrow taking more questions. And again, it is, hey, Jacka, good, and Ben, how are you? So if you do have a question, on CVs, cover letters. Feel free to put them down below. Happy to take a question. More than happy to take a question. Hey, Fasta, how are you doing? So yeah, so I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. Today we've had a good discussion about earning money at 16, giving a bit of advice about careers, life. Also, had a bit of an update from one of my regular viewers that comes in from time to time talking about their career change and business startup. I spent a lot of time today talking about really kind of career change. And how do you make that career change from psychology to statistics, and also to spend a little time about finding a job in the UK from outside the UK. And so, when we do finish, if you do have a question, always remember you can get in contact with me outside. If there is something that you want to see tomorrow as part of the discussion or me to address, always feel free to put it down, contact me. Contact information is in my profile, along with sending a direct message to me. But if you do direct message me, what I do tell people is to make sure you do reference that you saw the live stream and did message, for people to contact on tips and ideas. Otherwise, it may be a while before I get back, because I do get a lot of spam messages, and so I will kind of try to filter through them. So if you just mention to me that you saw the live, hey Mick and Bob, and you do want, you had a question or a suggestion for a topic for live, just mention it. Hey Bob, how are you doing? Hey Zoe and Mick. So if you do have a question, anything regarding, CVs, cover letters, negotiating pay, starting a small business in the UK, anything like that, put it down below and I will pick it up for you. And so looks like we're winding down to the last 50 seconds or so. Hey Reese, good to see you back. Hey, so if you are, so as we hit the final 30, just remember to set a reminder. I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, taking your questions. And I will be taking your questions, talking a bit tomorrow about CVs for, hey, Ann, how are you? And kind of talking a little bit for under 18s. So if you have a question, just mention it. What I do want to thank everyone for the likes, the shares, the follows, and the gifts. Very nice, very much appreciated. And I will see you back tomorrow, 4 a.m.